Hey folks, happy Easter. Been a little bit. I just want to, while driving, which is why I'm not looking down at my phone, something I was thinking about this morning. You can look into this in Romans 6, but something you might not necessarily connect with Easter and the whole week following up to Easter, Good Friday, and then Easter Sunday, is baptism. Why we do baptism, what the deal is with it. So I just figured, and this is something I've been sort of chewing on lately too, and learning this last year, because I don't think I ever had a proper understanding of what baptism actually is, what it actually represents in sort of the way I do now. But for anybody who doesn't really understand the deal with baptism, or doesn't see past its sort of surface qualities of like as a ritual, it's not just a ritual. And we could go into this deeper, we could talk about this sort of thing all day, but everything, there's another guy on YouTube who's really, really cool, and his channel's called Wild Olive Shoot, but he says this all the time, and I agree with him. Everything in the physical world basically represents a copy or a shadow, some type of representation or an expression of something, some type of occurrence in the spiritual world. And when you look at the physical qualities of baptism, going down under the water and rising back up, what you're doing when you choose to have that happen to you and partake in that process is really what you're choosing to do is to participate in the death of Jesus Christ. And it's not the only time you're going to do that in your life if you follow Jesus. It's not by far, it's not the only time you're going to do that. There are cycles with which this universe, this physical world we live in, are following after, because it's built on a foundation of spiritual reality. And those happen in micro ways and they happen in macro ways. And essentially, like how, I'm thinking of multiple verses, but I'll just say Romans 6 is a good place to go look at this to sort of understand. It doesn't mention baptism, but other verses do. But basically, in Romans, Paul is writing about how we participate in the death of Jesus Christ so that we can participate in the life of Jesus Christ. So to dilute that down and sort of get to the point, that's what baptism is about, right? The reason that we do, the reason Jesus did it and set the example, is because he's having us go through these things to understand what it is that we are called to do ultimately in the macro cycle of our own life, our own short little life. And whenever we do it in a small way, we're sort of practicing to do it in a big way, if that makes sense. And I can expand on this too if that's confusing. But the reason we get baptized, and the true baptism of the Spirit on a truer level, is really just accepting participation in the death of Jesus Christ through faith that he was resurrected by the Father. It takes faith to do that.
Next light, turn left.
In little ways or in big ways, it takes faith to do that. Why? Because faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see, right? It's something that you have to walk to your death willingly, just as Jesus did, because out of nothing but faith you believe that through that process, you will return to life, and life ascended, life eternal. Just as when he came back, he spent a short time on earth, but he wasn't the same as he was before he died. He wasn't on the same mission anymore, and he shortly ascended to the Father, to heaven, in a glorified form. So yeah, I mean, trying to break down the whole deal right now into a short video, but that's just a connection that I wanted to make between Easter Sunday and baptism, which maybe we don't think about a lot, but it's also a representation of a bigger idea of, though you may die in this life, and we all will die, whether we do it willingly or whether we do it with faith in our hearts or not, we all will die. Or if we're talking about it in a smaller way, where I have to have a little death today, so that I can have a little more life here on earth. And that does happen in a lot of ways. When through the process of sanctification, when Jesus, again, another water analogy, is like when you wash their feet, right? He says, if you do not allow me to wash your feet, you have no part in me. Baptism lines up with that. It's again another representation. Man, the whole Bible is just this representation of the same thing over and over. It's almost like God knew it was important for us to get it, so he laid it out in a lot of different ways. But you can look at the earth, you can look at the universe, you can look at the natural world around you and see the same thing. Unless a seed fall to the ground and die, it will not be born again, right? Which is a paraphrase. But if you, what Jesus said, but if you, think about it, how can a seed turn into a tree? It's a whole different form. Well, it has to go through a process of death. Or if you think about like a butterfly, it starts as a caterpillar in a limited form, and then it goes through a process of death. It literally melts inside the cocoon and changes into something else, but at the same time, it's the same creature. It's the same entity that went in. Even though that entity died, it remains, if that makes sense, but in a new way. So, yeah. And by the way, for the people who are kind of like me, who get sucked into sort of a legalistic way of thinking about things, which is from the devil, which wants you to feel like, well, I'm not worthy of participating in the life of Jesus Christ because I'm a sinner. That's kind of the whole deal, right? It wasn't a butterfly that went into a cocoon and came back out. There was no change if that were to happen. It was a different thing, right? While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So, turn to God. Let him sanctify you. Let him wash your feet. Right? Scary, I know. Trust me. If there's one thing I deal with, it's fear. But through Jesus, we have victory. So think about that today. All right. See you later.